welcome to the Ward 25 Candidate Forum of 2021. Thank you, Ward 25 members and forum candidates, Mayor Justin Elliker, Karen Dubois Walton, Macy Torres, Adam Marchand, Michael Smart, and Ed Joyner for your generous time commitment to this democratic educational process. We have a few housekeeping details that you all should hear to get started. The first of which is to let you know that this candidate forum is being recorded and it will probably be posted and shared on public media. Please know that we are in good hands with the technical details of this Zoom webinar by the wonderful team of Mike Slattery and Tim Holohan navigation team. They'll keep everyone muted when appropriate to move us along without interruption and keep our timing on schedule as much as possible. The co-chair team of Barbara Segaloff and Janice Underwood will moderate and also keep things running along as smoothly as possible. Many thanks to committee members who submitted the questions that are being asked tonight. We'll do our very best to answer as many as time allows, trying to cover as many areas of interest and also for us to get to bed on time. So please remember, this is a forum and not a debate. Our main goal tonight is to provide our Ward 25 committee members with as much information about the candidates that are running in this primary as possible for them to make an informed decision when we, the Ward 25, have our straw poll vote meeting on June 13th. Please mark your calendars, Ward 25 members, for the purpose of co-chairs endorsing candidates at the New Haven Democratic Convention in July. And for the sake of time equity, candidates are asked to stick to stated times for your answers. Our tech people will give a 30-second reminder for candidates to wrap up their responses. So please be respectful of everyone's time. Our tech people do have the mute button. All candidates should be aware that they are asked to respond at the beginning of this forum and also at the end of this forum. And we'll be opening responses for all candidates, as well as there'll be a closing response opportunity as well. There will, however, be no opportunity for rebuttal to questions between candidates. However, we will, during the closing statements, you might want to use that function.
I don't know if other folks can hear Janice, but I can't hear you anymore, Janice. No, it sounds like other folks can't hear you either. Tim or Mike?
Hi, Mike.
I have a feeling that we have a duplicate here with Mike Smart, a candidate. So we're going to try and sort that out. Hold on a sec.
Mike Smart, are you on the line?
I'm on the line.
Okay, so you've logged in with Janice's link, and that's causing us some difficulties. You've wound up canceling her audio. So we need to, Mike Slattery, I think we need to ask Mike Smart to disconnect and get him another link and get Janice back on audio.
Okay.
So Mike,
So Mike, I'll text you the number to send me a link, I guess.
That sounds right, Mike Smart.
Yeah, Mike, if you check your work email, your .gov.
Yeah, can you send it? Because I'm in my car. I'm not even near there. So I sent another address for you to send it to me if you could.
Will do. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Janice, we're still not there yet.
Looks like she could just unmute.
Don't you love Zoom, people? Isn't it great to be on Zoom all the time? Things like this never happen. We'll get it sorted.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted.
Nice job, Janice. We're back.
We're back. Is Justin back?
Yep, Justin's on. Mike Smart is the challenge, but hopefully we'll get him by the time we need to hear from him.
Yeah, I'm seeing his, I was named Mike Smart for a minute there. I was changing my identity.
You're back to Janice, and
Back to Janice. Is Karen Dubois Walton with us? Is her sound good?
Karen's on.
I am on.
Okay,
I'm on.
good. Okay, thank goodness. Let's go then. You ready? So we have a prompt that was given to us by one of our committee members as their offering. And it goes like this. Imagine yourself speaking with a diverse group of New Haven cross-cultural families who are seriously considering moving out of our lovely city of New Haven. Those families tell you that it's because of New Haven has a lack of affordable housing. The property taxes are too high. There's an increase in crime, especially in their neighborhood and in the city. And their concern and belief is that their children cannot currently receive a high quality education in the New Haven public school system. What would you say to those parents to convince them to stay in New Haven, to hang in there? Karen Dubois Walton, your question.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for hosting this. It's wonderful to be here. This is a wonderful city with so many opportunities, and we have gone through a really difficult period. The pandemic required the city to shut down, and what we need now is an opportunity to reopen in ways that are going to make us a stronger, a smarter, and a more equitable city. We are facing concerns in this community about rising crime and about our public school system and about taxes and affordability of living here. And that calls on us to have the right leadership that's meant to meet this moment, and leadership that's going to bring experience and knowledge to the very big problems that have been named that are facing us right now. I have been the chief administrative officer and the chief of staff in this city, and I have run a $140 million organization in the city. And I have done that working to create improvements in people's lives. And I think we will work together as a team and lead in ways that can address the challenges of our public school system. We need to first get our students back in school 5 days a week, in-person options. We need to lead with equitable early childcare opportunities that we can do through a New Haven Promise initiative. We need to get people back to work, and bringing people back to work will, and creating economic opportunity will also address the root causes of crime in this community, and will strengthen the fiscal health in this community so that it can be a place where all of us can thrive, and where we can continue to be a community that represents the diversity of this country in the way that New Haven does.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you very much, Karen Dubois Walton. And the next candidate to respond will be Macy Torres, also a mayoral candidate. Macy Torres, are you with us?
I am. Hi, everyone. You know, I have been in the city since I was 8 years old, and I love my city. I live in a place where I see the pain of the people every day, especially since the pandemic. And while I agree with Mr. Boyce that, you know, some infrastructure can make some serious changes, you know, what I would tell this family is that We don't need to move. We just need to work together. And some of the things that we need to change is, you're right, the infrastructure. But we need to start working now. 2 years ago, I summoned my mayor to my city, to my town, and I asked them to please close down a drug house. 2 years later, the drug house is still open. So when we talk about making some changes, we need to commit. And so at the end, here's what I can tell you. I know what it is to fight for my particular rights. I know what it is to fight for the rights of my people around me, my community. And I will continue to do so for families like the one that you mentioned, because
30
that's
seconds.
around me. Thank you.
Thank you, Macy Torres. The next person to respond will be Alder Adam Marchand, running for re-election.
Thanks, Janice. Thanks, Barbara, for hosting this. Thanks, Mike and Tim, for pushing the buttons and pulling the levers. I'm incredibly optimistic about New Haven and about Westville, but I'm also, my eyes are wide open about the problems that we face. We face serious fiscal challenges. We face an epidemic of violence, particularly among young people. We face joblessness at very high levels, particularly in our neighborhoods of need. We have serious challenges, but I'm confident that we will meet those challenges. New Haven has such an incredibly diverse and engaged citizenry and resident base, and they turn out and they work. I mean, that's certainly true of Ward 25, right? And it's one of the great strengths of our city. It ain't perfect. We've got some potholes that need to be filled, that's for sure. But a few places that I've ever lived in my entire life match New Haven for its vitality, its ingenuity, its grit. And so I think people should stay and help us slog through the difficulty. Let's get to the other side together, because this is like, you can't beat living in New Haven, in my opinion. It's like the best place I've ever lived. I've only been here for 25 years, about half my life, but it's my favorite place in the world. And Westville is a good example of what makes New Haven great. It's the engagement, it's people showing up, it's people doing the work. And yeah, I would engage with those people, and I do it from time to time in the neighborhood. I talk with people about should they stay or should they go, and I would say, please stay.
Thank you, Adam. Can I ask for an audio check for Mayor Justin Elicker?
That work?
Oh, you're here, you're back, yes. So, Mayor Elicker, would you like to respond to that prompt?
Sure. And first of all, thank you, Janice and Barbara, for organizing this. I know this doesn't, I know this takes a lot of work. It's been a really tough week and a half for our city. Very grateful for a lot of the love and support that many people have shown, particularly for the loss that we experienced in the fire department. New Haven's an incredible city. And, I often hear as mayor, people say, I'm fed up with taxes, I'm fed up with the crime. And despite the odds during one of the most challenging times that we've ever faced as a city with the pandemic, we are actually on the cusp of conquering many of these issues and have actually been able to address issues that have been elusive for decades. We created a reentry welcome center that welcomes every one of the over 900 people that come back from prison every year with caseworker support and peer mentorship. We've created a job training program that we are working to grow. We're working on a crisis response team to change the way that we look at public safety. But there's other issues like state funding that gets to the core of our issues around taxes that we are on the cusp, because of the work in partnership with our state delegation that we've all done, of getting $49 million additional funding from the state. That's something that's been talked about for decades. we're close to, or we have drafted an agreement with Tweed that addresses the neighborhood concerns and allows Tweed to incrementally offer more flights. We've addressed the Union Station question that has been elusive for decades. We're about to implement and we're rolling out policies on affordable housing. We are getting so many things done. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Our city's diverse, and that makes us strong. Our neighborhoods are vibrant. This is a city that we can feel proud of, that I am proud of, and
Thank
that
you,
we are
Mayor.
conquering many of these challenging issues that we're facing.
Thank you, Justin Elicker. The next person I'd like to call on is City Town Clerk Michael Smart, who's also running for re-election. Are you with us, Mike?
Mike is not.
Yeah,
logged
we
in.
haven't been able to get him to get his connection on yet.
Okay, how about Board of Ed District 1, Ed Joyner running for re-election?
Also not on yet.
Okay, then I'm going to move forward with the program here. Thank you for those responses. We have some really strong candidates running for mayor. I'm excited. My favorite city has wonderfully talented people, and I'm very proud of that. So the next section are questions for all of the mayoral candidates, and I'll call on you one at a time. And each question is in a particular area of specialty that has been submitted to us by our ward committee folks. And the first question has to do with housing, and it's going to go to Macy Torres first. The question is, oh, by the way, you have 2 minutes for this one, 2 minutes. What are the hot items on housing legislation before the Board of Alders and also in Hartford these days? And where do you stand on these? Macy Torres.
Thank you so much for calling on me. So listen, first of all, we're talking about housing. Where is the affordable housing? Where is it exactly? And we talk about the medium income based on an affluent area. I live in New Haven. Most of my families make $35,000, $40,000, but we base housing on a medium income of $95,000. I don't really know what these legislators are doing. I am not a politician. I am a resident of New Haven, in the Hill, okay, on a street where I see drugs, prostitution, okay? That's who I am. I don't represent a political party per se, but I am a Democrat. What I will tell you is, I don't know any affordable housing. What I see is a lot of new buildings coming on where a studio apartment costs $2,000. So when somebody tells me affordable housing, I'm yet to see it. Can you show it to me? Bring me there. Aside from that, where exactly do I find any aid for anyone when it comes to housing? I don't know any housing for the elderly that is affordable, that is equitable, or for anyone in my neighborhood. Mentally ill people, I have so many in my boroughs. So whatever is happening on the floor and whatever these politicians are doing, they're not thinking about us.
Thank you, Macy. So I'll read the question again. And this time the question goes to Karen Dubois Walton. Thank you, Macy. I'm going. Karen Dubois Walton, you're the next person to answer. And the question is, what are the hot items on housing legislation before the Board of Alders and in Hartford these days? And where do you stand on those pieces of legislation that are currently being discussed?
Affordable housing has been the thing that I have been providing leadership around the city most significantly for the last 14 years and helping to shape the dialogue in the city, in the region, in the state. Certainly the presence of continued exclusionary practices that have segregated our city that date back hundreds of years are top on the agenda in many of the statewide and regional conversations about housing. How are we reversing the patterns that have been created? How are we addressing the lack of affordability through zoning at the state level, through attempts at zoning reform, through legislation like Fair Share Act, and initiatives that we led with at Elm City Communities around enabling the development of affordable housing in more places. All of that is meant to address the fact that there is just too little affordable housing in the state, and that it can't be solved solely by the urban centers. And these push at the state, these attempts at the statewide level seek to get access into affordable access to affordable housing into a wider range of communities. And I am fully in support of efforts that have attempted to increase affordable housing outside of the footprint of the city. Locally, there are concerns about the quality of affordable housing. There is concern about the continued segregatory patterns within the city. There's concern about the rise of market rate high-end units, particularly downtown and in downtown adjacent neighborhoods that have not included any affordability. And the Board of Alders has included affordability in the work they focused on, both in forming an affordable housing task force, which led to Affordable Housing Commission, which I served on and have fully endorsed many of the initiatives that will be coming out of that. I've also worked to shape what inclusionary zoning may look like, moving it from what I thought was an insufficient proposal to something that may be more in line with addressing the needs locally.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next up is Mayor Justin Elicker.
Thanks. I was actually knocking on doors yesterday on Whaley Avenue, and it came up with one of the people I spoke with about how he was struggling to pay his rent. And we have hear these stories over and over and over again in our city. There are a number of meaningful proposals at the state level, because let's face it, our suburban neighbors need to do way more than they're doing now. And unfortunately, while many of us advocated for this at the state level, I testified and advocated for it for the Desegregate Connecticut agenda, and also expanding the Housing Authority purview to a broader area. It looks like the Desegregate proposal has been watered down. I even got into a back and forth with Greenwich about this, because I think at the end of the day, this is about perpetuating systemic racism. And that's something that our suburban towns need to do much more to address. But we need to do more as a city as well. We have around 30% of our city is quote unquote affordable, but affordable is not affordable to everyone. We have proposed to the Board of Alders an accessory dwelling unit policy change, and the Board of Alders is reviewing that now. We're about to roll out an inclusionary zoning policy change proposal to the Board of Alders that will require some developers or large developers to include both affordable and deeply affordable housing in the
30
city.
seconds.
And we're working on landlord accountability, because there is some housing in New Haven that is affordable, but it is not humane. And we need to make sure that our landlords are held accountable for providing clean and safe housing for people as well.
Thank you, Mayor Elicker. We're on to the next question. It has to do with youth programming. First up for answering will be Karen Dubois-Walton. It's a 2-minute question. And here it is. What tools will you use to implement your vision going forward for youth programming and violence prevention initiatives?
Thank you. It is heartbreaking what's happening in our community right now in terms of the rise in violent crime, and the rise in crime, both violent and property crimes, is impacting every community across our city. One thing that we need to speak to initially around our young people is that we need to have them back in school. And they need to be in school in a 5-day in-person option. And parents need to know what the plan is for the fall so that they will be able to plan. And when we get our young people in, we need to be working on implementing pathways to success that include certainly college-bound access, but also that are preparing our young people for roles in the trades and vocational learning, preparing for the jobs we need, pipeline into our future educators and future public safety, biotech and healthcare. So let's have really robust school programming. But let's start our children off from the right start. We have a wonderful promise that we give to our high school students that we are going to help them get to the next level. It's time for us to make that same promise to our littlest ones so that they are entering school prepared, and we should look for a New Haven pre-promise program at this point. And then we need, because we need to deal with the trauma that has been experienced in our community and ensure that our programming for our young people includes play and social emotional opportunities and recreational opportunities, youth mentoring and leadership, youth employment opportunities. I'm excited to think about opportunities to promote youth leadership through youth boards and commissions and opportunities for our young people to take leadership opportunities so that we can be preventative. We certainly need to make intervention efforts for those young people that are experiencing challenges around criminal activity at this point, juvenile activity at this point, and supports that we can wrap around our young people through the school system and the supportive providers in our community.
Thank you, Karen DuBois Walton. The next person up for this question is Macy Torres.
So this is something that's very close to my heart because, again, something that I live on a daily basis. You know, I watch the kids play next to, prostitutes selling themselves or drug dealers selling their drugs. And, it hurts me. I am a mother of 3 sons and, 5 minutes away from me, there's opulence and, we're becoming the haves and the have-nots. And youth violence to me is a very big deal. Growing up in the city, I experienced it myself. And so preventing youth requires addressing the factors on the social level, right? And to me, this behavior can be curbed. And I firmly believe, and I have hope, that working and changing that infrastructure is really what's going to make the changes possible. I mean, I think that one strategy that can work is promoting promoting family sense. We have lost that here in many ways, we don't have in many families, there's no fathers. And these figures are important still to this day. And even though families can come in many different ways now, we need to promote sense of family. We don't have that. We need to provide quality education. That education starts at home. These kids are going to school and they present themselves with loose bullets. Our mayor is not doing anything about it. And the first thing we need to do is close down these drug houses. It's the very first thing. The second thing we need to do is ensure that.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Your time is past 2 minutes. I appreciate your passion.
Janice, I'd like to just jump in and say that
neighborhood itself, so that they have opportunity to dream of a better world.
Thank you, Ms. Torres, for your passion.
We had Mike for a second. We don't have him anymore, so still stand by. Sorry about that.
Thank you. I'm going to move forward and ask Mayor Elicker to respond to what tools will you use to implement your vision going forward for youth programming and violence prevention initiatives?
Thank you for this question. This is one of the most challenging things I think we're facing as a city right now. We lost Tayshawn Brown, an 18-year-old, 2 days ago. I went to the wake of Mariah Intharath yesterday morning, and the countless families who have lost loved ones is just devastating for our community, and something that we need to address. And there's the short term and the long term here. In the short term, Youth Connect, which was Youth Stat that was started with Mayor Harp, is continuing to work one by one with individuals that are suspected of potentially being at risk. We've just initiated through the Board of Alders $6.3 million, which they're reviewing right now. $2 million of that is going to public safety and 1.5 to youth programming. And that includes a significant increase in street outreach workers, youth jobs component, and then there's the long-term engagement, because we're not going to address this problem in the long term through policing and street outreach workers. We're working on extended summer camp, fully agree about early childhood education. The governor is looking to spend a significant amount of the American Rescue dollars on that. And let's be frank that college is not for everyone. So we can't forget about the kids that may not end up going to college. The Board of Ed is working on expanding manufacturing training. We have restarted a construction jobs program training, and we'll continue to work to expand options for people, everyone in our community, to ensure that youth have a productive and fruitful future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next candidate question for the mayoral race is about public safety. And the first up for that one is Justin Elicker, and it's a 2-minute question. And this one is, what will the city do about the escalation over the past year and a half about murders and violent crime in our city?
This has been a deeply challenging issue that cities around the nation are facing. And just to give you a sense, Rhode Island's shootings were up over 100% last year. Providence's, New York's were up over around 80%, and ours were up around 35%. And we're really feeling this impact now. We're approaching this using data-backed, research-backed strategies in 3 ways. 1 is stopping crime, 2 is engaging people, and 3 is supporting people's future. On stopping crime, we are increasing walking and bicycle beats. We are reinstituting the shooting task force because it's imperative that we solve many of these shootings quickly. If someone shoots someone, they're likely to shoot someone else again. On engaging people, I mentioned increasing the number of street outreach workers, and they are incredible at their work at stopping retaliation from occurring. Project Longevity and Project Safe Neighborhoods, I speak at these call-ins where individuals that we believe could potentially be at risk of engaging in violence are brought in and provided resources and a warning that if they continue on this path, there will be consequences. And parole and probation are doing custom visits to identify guns. But the ending solution in this is not through policing. It is by supporting people's future. Historically, over 900 people have come out of prison every year, and they've been dropped off on the green or in front of the police station with a good luck. We've created a reentry center where every single person will be welcomed with a peer support specialist and a mentor to help connect with resources and allow people to be more successful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next person to answer the public safety question will be Macy Torres. Are you with us, Macy?
I certainly am. You know, my heart breaks. I am not gonna lie. I am a human being. I hear my mayor. And sir, I know that you're a human being too, but I would love to take a tour of all of the wonderful things you say you do, because I don't see it. And when you talk about them, they sound so good to me, because a reentry program, we had it before. It didn't work then, it's not working now. And I have proof. I can prove beyond any reasonable doubt. And you believe in rainbows, and I believe in unicorns. They're beautiful. But when I open my eyes, I know what I see. I see people in pain. I see people that are poor. I see people that are hungry. and I see people that are not wanted downtown. And that's the tradition, right? Because what does Yale stand for? What do they stand for, sir? They stand for racism. We can pass racism as a health disparity, but if we don't build any laws behind them, then the vulnerable continue to be oppressed. And here's the biggest problem. You can speak beautifully. You can spin off things in the media as much as you want to, sir. But the reality is that you're doing nothing for us. Absolutely nothing. So let's go back 1 minute.
30 seconds.
Where are these programs, sir? And give me a tour. Invite me downtown. Invite all of us downtown to actually take a look at the programs that you are doing. Let's do a buyback program for guns. Let's do that. Let's start giving education on guns to people so that they don't have fear, so that they understand the gravity. They kill. People don't stand back up like in the games. Okay? Let's give real education to
Thank you,
people.
Ms. Torres.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Next up is Karen Dubois Walton. And the question is, what will you do about the escalation over the past year and a half of murders and violent crime in our city if you were to become mayor?
I'm a mom of 25-year-old and 21-year-old sons. And some of the hardest things I have had to do is comfort my sons after they have lost classmates, teammates who they played basketball with to gun violence in this city. The loss of potential is devastating in our community, and the terror and the trauma that it causes to the broader community has got to be addressed with the urgency that this issue really requires. And it certainly requires us addressing police accountability and police refocusing. The reforms that were enabled by the state passage of the police accountability bill opened the pathway for us at the local level to make adjustments. Police morale is at a low point right now. There are vacancies in key leadership positions. There are promotional opportunities that are present that currently have undermined the sense of the police response in our community. Community engagement has asked for a redefinition of how police and community engage. And we as a community have to redefine what it is that we want policing to be doing and what we don't want policing to do. So failure to solve crime in this community and the failure to close homicide cases leaves families who have been devastated continuing to grieve without a sense of closure, and promotes a sense of lawlessness in our community and leaves people held unaccountable, and we have to address that. And then we have to get to the root causes of crime in our community, and we have to make the investments. And we've called for $10 million of the ARP money to be used just for these purposes, around investment in job retraining, workforce opportunities, and education, so that people can have an opportunity to choose something other than gun violence.
Thank you, Karen Dubois Walton. Our next question is a little different. This is the lightning question, a yes or no answer, no explanations. And it's going to be quick, and we're going to start with Macy Torres, then Karen Dubois Walton, and then Justin Elicker. This is a yes or no question. Audio people, be ready, because here it comes. Okay, would you support access to school bathrooms based on a student's preferred gender? Yes or
Yes.
no?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Do I support? Oh. I'm sorry, restate the question.
Would you support access to school bathrooms based on a student's preferred gender?
Yes.
So first up was Macy. The next one is Macy Torres, and then Karen Dubois Walton.
Yes.
And Justin Elicker.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Next question is a 2-minute question. And we'll start that one with Karen Dubois Walton. And here it is. From a post-pandemic lens, what do you see as the most compelling issue facing New Haven Public Schools?
This is for me. As a post-pandemic, right, as we need to come back, and we need to come back in ways that are going to make us smarter, stronger, and more equitable, the most pressing issue is that our young people, because of a lack of leadership and a lack of ability to bring consensus, missed out on an opportunity to return in September when every other district in our state was able to return. Most pressing issue is that we get our young people back and have solid plans to connect them to the trauma resources and social emotional resources that have been missing, that we connect them to academic support, and that we allow them opportunity to reconnect with their peers and have opportunities for recreational and play opportunities over the summer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next question, same question goes to Macy Torres.
So, post-pandemic, we learned a huge lesson. And I think it taught us really how to be human, how to just embrace each other, and how to be resilient. And that's really what is giving us the power to understand that community is everything. Government is there, but community is where the resources should be. And what government should do is open up so that we can be the key for one another.
Okay, thank you very much. Next on that question would be Justin Elker.
Thank you. I'm concerned about the idea that, or the criticism of lack of leadership here. And this idea of Monday morning quarterbacking 9 months after something occurred, when there was no previous effort to testify or advocate for this position. And now that there's a mayoral campaign, this is something that's important. I was one of the strongest advocates for opening up schools, and we worked tirelessly with many people to ensure that we could keep our students and staff safe through testing, through access to education, through improving the HVAC system and other infrastructure in the schools. Our building and our health department and fire department inspected the schools. Nothing's perfect, but to bring this up now is unfortunate. What we need to do is bounce back strong, and we are doing so. I mentioned $6.3 million in this summer, and a huge portion of that is going to be lengthening summer camps. Typically, our summer camps are 5 weeks. They're going to go to 8 weeks this summer. There's a partnership between the Board of Ed and our Youth and Rec department so that there's a mixture of academics and recreation, because our students need both of those at this time to help bring them back up to speed, but actually have fun over the summer. We're doing a youth jobs program, and we will fully restart school in the fall. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and criticize, but we're working hard with our team to make sure that kids have the opportunities that they need to excel.
Thank you. The next section and the last section for the questions for all the mayoral candidates has to do with financial security. And first up will be Justin, then Macy, and then Karen. They're 2-minute questions. And here comes the question. How would you allocate the Federal American Rescue Act federal aid that is coming forward?
This is the biggest opportunity our city's facing. I think it's the opportunity of a lifetime. We initiated with the Board of Alders emergency funding to ensure that we could activate funds for youth, public safety, arts and culture, and infrastructure over the summer. But the vast majority of those funds, we as a community need to work together to determine that direction and how we invest them. The city's receiving around $90 million from the federal government. we are starting tomorrow our community engagement process that our team has worked on organizing for quite some time now. If people can make it, it's at Hill House High School cafeteria at 6 p.m. tomorrow. And this is just the beginning of those conversations about how we invest these funds. I think that we need to make sure that this isn't a one-time thing, that this funding gives back for decades to come. I think that we should invest this in building wealth in our community, in ensuring that we address equity issues and allow people not just to have a one-time influx of funding, but something that allows them to have a consistent job, to start a business, to ensure that they have a long-term future and this investment's used wisely. But we as a community need to decide exactly how this is spent. And that's what tomorrow, that process will begin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And next up for that same question about the Federal American Rescue Act money would be Macy Torres.
So, you know, I understand that there is need to build generational wealth for sure. And I think though, we do best in concentrating in education. I feel, especially since the pandemic, we have lost kind of a miss educating our children, the processes that they have gone through. This pandemic alone has hindered their, their mentality. It has given them a level of stress that they have never lived through. I've heard of a Wheeler Clinic. They have a specific program in which they teach people how to give therapy to children that are from the LGBTQ community. And, honestly, I think programs like these that specialize in niches of children that are suffering, especially through the pandemic, are important. I think investing in education and investing in the psychology of children, it's really what's important to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And next up is Karen Dubois Walton.
Yes, we have called for an inclusive community-based process so that the decision-making is from the ground up, grassroots organizations and individuals in our community really having a say in how this money gets spent, so that we can ensure that it's spent equitably and we can ensure that it's invested in things that will give us long-term benefit. We did call for an early investment around policing, police accountability and violence prevention because of the urgency of those issues. And beyond that, we would expect, based upon what we've heard thus far in community engagement processes and what we hope will come, that we need to see investment in infrastructure, investment in entrepreneurism and small business, investment in healthcare access, investment in our essential workers, so those frontline folks that we rely on and called essential, but still are not making a livable wage in our community. We certainly need to dedicate funding toward housing, to prevention of eviction, housing stabilization. We need to get eviction prevention process off the ground that actually is effective and helpful for families. We need to be addressing trauma and trauma recovery. And we need to invest in our artists and our arts community and others that are going to help us with this community healing and community expression and mourning, but also recognize that they have been very hard hit during this pandemic. So again, this needs to be a community-driven process that focuses in those types of areas.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So this wraps up the specific questions for the mayoral candidates. But before going on to the next section for more questioning that Barbara Segaloff will be moderator, we have two people who have not given their overall introduction and response to the prompt. that other folks had a chance to do. Michael Smart and Ed Joyner, are they present?
Mike is, Ed has not been able to join yet.
Oh dear. And Mr. Joyner?
Mike Smart is on. Ed Joyner has not been able to join. So let's maybe turn it over to Mike and then
Okay.
hopefully Ed can join.
Okay. Michael Smart, are you with us?
Hi, Janice. How are you?
Oh my goodness, you are here.
I'm here. I'm here. Had a couple of technical difficulties, but I'm here.
Oh, thank goodness, thank goodness. So you missed the part, and I think we'd like to hear from you as it regards your introduction. It's a 3-minute introduction, and we're doing it a little differently with a prompt from our committee member. They suggested a question that we turned into a prompt because we thought it set a very wonderful tone. So here is the scenario. You're speaking with a diverse group of New Haven's cross-cultural families who are seriously considering moving out of New Haven. Those families tell you that it's because of New Haven's lack of affordable housing, high property taxes, increase in crime in the city, and their concern and their belief that their children cannot currently receive a high-quality education in the New Haven public school system. What would you say to those families to convince them to stay?
Well, first of all, I would say I'm a resident of the city. I raised my family in the city, lifelong resident. My kids went to public schools. And I think there's tremendous opportunity here for families to thrive. We certainly need to work together with the state. We need to work together with our alders, our mayor, and of course, obviously, hold Yale accountable for helping us with this, the tax base. Certainly, we have issues like any other city, but I think that we've made great strides in the city. We have great opportunity, and it's just a great diverse city.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, unless Ed Joyner has appeared, then we'll move on to the next section, which is specific questions for candidates. And that will be hosted by Barbara Segaloff, co-chair, Ward 25. Take it away, Barbara.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you for getting us through this first part of the forum. So at this time, we're going to have direct questions, 2 questions, 3 minutes each. And the first 2 direct questions will be to Karen Dubois Walton. 2 years ago, you could have challenged the incumbent administration. Why now, following a pandemic, and particularly this point in time, have you chosen to primary the current administration?
Thank you, Barbara. The urgency of this moment is what is driving me at this point. The need for experience and trusted leadership at this point. The city has been shut down. What we need now is to be able to reopen, and to reopen in ways that are going to make us smarter, stronger, and more equitable. And the experiences that I have had and the urgency that I feel in this moment is rooted in a few things. The lack of leadership on the Board of Education, I believe, has failed our children. Not being able to bring consensus to a plan to reopen our schools, not being able to instill trust in our community that allowed our educators and our families and our students to feel comfortable coming back into the district was, to me, a very urgent call in that moment. The rise in crime is a second issue that I feel urgently around and needs to be addressed right now. The moment to move forward items around police accountability and reset the relationship with our community. That opportunity has been paved by the work of our Senator Winfield and hundreds and thousands of people who took to the streets to demand something differently. As I watched the response of this administration to that movement and the failure to move forward in that moment, I felt very urgently and the mismatch between the approach and what the community was calling for, particularly in a very painful night in front of one union where our residents were pepper sprayed and forced to wait over 7 hours to even be addressed by our leadership. Those are the kinds of moments that said to me, I feel like what we need in this moment is not what we have. And so this is where I bring my experience of living in this city and serving the city for 25 years at this point. Feels urgently needed in this moment, and an opportunity for us to get back to work, get our children back to school, and reestablish a long-term and sustainable approach to our fiscal well-being in the city. Feels urgent for me right now, and that's why I'm a candidate for mayor in 2021.
Thank you, Karen. The next question, and you have 3 minutes for this response. Do you think Yale should be a better financial partner in this city? And if so, what would you ask of them?
Yale absolutely must be a better partner to the city. Yale must pay more, and Yale must make significant investments in the economic success of the city. Yale must recognize that Yale's success is New Haven's success, and Yale must be engaged in, we must engage in a reset in the relationship with the university so that we get to the table around sustainable investment. We cannot continue in this annual dance with the university that leaves the alders in a situation of passing a budget without knowing with any certainty what that contribution is going to look like. We need to get into a partnership, a shared, rooted in a shared understanding of our economic growth that will be a long-term and sustainable investment. That will come certainly in their payment into the general fund, and it also should come in strategic investments that will foster economic growth in our community.
Thank you, Karen. So the next 2 specific questions are for Mayor Elicker, and you have 3 minutes to respond to each one. Will you be happy if a 50 million contribution from Yale is offered potentially over a period of years? Or would you push for their fair and just contribution that the taxpayers of New Haven have been shouldering for many years?
So just to be clear, I have been working on this issue and very vocal about Yale needing to provide more financial resources to the city for quite some time. And the other candidate for the first time I saw at a Unite Here rally, I have been overwhelmingly clear that I think the university needs to do significantly more. Our team is making progress in those conversations with the university, and now is not the time to change course. I know that folks would like to hear the details on that. We're not quite ready, but I think it's important for us to push for Yale to make a significant investment in the city. I think it's the ethically right thing to do. And it is something that we need from a financial perspective as well. I'm not trying to dodge your question, but in answering your question, it complicates the negotiations that are going on now. It's been abundantly clear what I think Yale should be doing.
Thank you. We appreciate that. The next question, again, 3 minutes. What is your vision for the next 2 or 4 years for this city? And what are the 2 things you'll work the hardest at to accomplish in your next term?
I think this is an opportunity of a lifetime. And it's for 2 reasons, well, 3 reasons. One is presuming we are able to get the financial support across the finish line, which I am optimistic about. Our city will be in a position finally where we're not raising taxes and cutting services every year, which we've been doing for ages. We'll be in a position of strength. The second reason is because we will have an incredible amount of funding through the American Rescue Plan coming to our city to allow us to choose our future. And the third reason is many more people in Connecticut and around the nation are having deeper conversations and understanding the perpetual and historical issues around systemic racism and inequality. We're seeing a partnership with the federal government and potentially more investment in infrastructure, in early childhood education, in free college. This is a time for our city to thrive. And it is a time for our city to redefine the investment in equity. The most important thing that we can do is to ensure that our communities that have historically been under-resourced have the support that they need to allow themselves to choose a future. And that support comes from early childhood investment. It comes from free college for those who choose so. And now is the time, now is the opportunity for us to work towards that goal. And this is what makes me so excited to continue the work that we're doing here.
Thank you very much. So at this time, this ends the question period for the mayoral candidates. We're now going to ask Alder Marchand and City Town Clerk Michael Smart and Ed Joyner, if he is on the call, to respond to some questions. And when that time is over, we will then ask everyone to provide their closing statements. So since City Town Clerk Michael Smart had some challenges before, Adam, I hope you don't mind if we go a little out of order and give him an opportunity to respond to this question at this time. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm just fine, thank you. Doing just fine.
Good.
So my question to you, and you have 3 minutes to respond. What role have you taken to work with the Secretary of State, Denise Merrill, to craft legislation that would further enfranchise equitable voting in this state?
So it's a very good question. We work with the Clerks Association, which is the county clerks. And what we do is we put together legislation and different agendas that we would like to see passed through the city and through all of the cities. And certainly we've been in conversation and really been pushing to make sure that, you know, she knows that we want to do no excuse absentee voting, and we want to extend the hours. I think the presidential election certainly was a test point for all of the clerks to show that it's needed, you know, well attended. And I think that that's something that we definitely need to do, and stay focused with making sure that we give the voters of the city and really all over the state the opportunity to continue to have easy access and every opportunity to vote. Another initiative I know I pushed really hard on, and that was the curbside absentee voting, which we're dealing with the pandemic, but I wanted to make sure that Secretary of State and the residents know that it's important. We're committed, and it's well overdue.
Thank you. Thank you for your efforts. That's all very much appreciated. Alder Marchand, 3 minutes for your response to this question. Single-family homes are valued and subsequently taxed higher than multi-family homes, especially in Beaver Hills and Westville. When multifamily use doubles or triples usage of the city resources, how will this inequity be addressed in the reevaluation?
That's an excellent question, and I don't know for sure what the answer is. We will see what the reevaluation brings in terms of how the scales are balanced between commercial and residential, between single family units and multifamily units. Of course, there's different methodologies for doing a reevaluation. One methodology is about sales price, another one is about income. And so we had a workshop with our city assessor back in March to give us a preview of this revaluation cycle. We will have them before us again to get more information about how that's proceeding. A lot of that activity will be this fall. But, you know, in the last revaluation, we did see some positive motion in the direction of commercial, which took a little bit of pressure off of residential. Of course, since that time, we've got a lot more units, a lot more big buildings with many, many apartments. That's going to have some kind of effect on property values as well. It's hard to know for sure exactly how that will be. I don't think there's a step that the board could take to change the revaluation process before it actually happens. I think that's already set by law. So we're just going to have to see which parts of the city gain in value, which parts of the city stay the same, which parts of the city go down in value. It's all relative, of course. And our grand list is growing. It's not growing as fast as we would like it to. And certainly the exempt portion is growing in value faster than we would want it to. But I think that's an excellent question you asked, Barbara, and I think we're going to have to see.
Great, thank you for your response. So to our technical staff, do we know if Ed Joyner has joined this forum?
He hasn't.
He hasn't. So what I would like to propose to the members of the ward committee that are listening into the forum, this is a question that we were going to ask Mr. Joyner, and perhaps you would want to reach out to him to see if he would respond to the question. And that is, what will you do to address the inequities of students left behind by a lack of internet access to catch up on their education? And perhaps you may want to reach out to him to get a response to that. All right, here's the fun part to everybody. It's now time for closing statements from candidates who wish to make them. We are going to give 2 minutes for each. And I would like to first call on Macy Torres. And I'm not sure that she's on at this time. Is that correct?
It looks like it right now that she is not connected to the meeting.
Okay.
If either of you has contact info for her and can text her, ask her to rejoin, that might work.
Okay. Fine. All right. So, excuse me, moving along then, I would then like to ask Karen Dubois Walton to provide us with a 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you. Thank you to Ward 25 for offering this opportunity and this forum. And thank you for everyone who attended this evening. You know, my parents really raised me to not just accept what's in front of me, but to really dream bigger and to always see the inequities between what we thought this world should look like and what it really does, and then to work really hard. And they instilled in me a set of democratic values around fighting for opportunity, around opening doors for others, and never forgetting our responsibility to each other. This has been an incredibly difficult year, and 2021 is not like 2019. And what we need in this moment is strong, experienced leadership that's going to move us forward in ways that will allow us to be stronger, smarter, and more equitable. My 2 sons, Kevin and Caleb, have returned home during this pandemic, and I have enjoyed having them back under my roof. And when I look at them, though, I think about the community that I want for them here, a community where they'll have an opportunity to reach their dreams and their goals and everything they need in order to thrive. It's what I want for them, and it's what I want for every young person in our community. So we need to open up stronger. We need to open up and get people back to work. We need to open up in ways that get our children back to school. And we need to open up ways that will position us to be fiscally stronger and more sustainable. I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Karen. I would like to now have Mayor Elicker provide us with 2 minutes of a closing statement.
Thanks, Barbara, and thanks, Janice, and everyone. You could be choosing other things to do tonight, and appreciate your commitment. We've had just a brutal year as a community, and it's been incredibly challenging. But we're starting to put out the fire, and this idea that we're starting to put out the fire and making progress, and now we're going to pull out the firefighters and change the whole team around just doesn't make sense to me. You can sit on the sidelines and criticize this and that, but ultimately, we're confronting decades of issues, from financial to issues around landlords, to issues around public safety and policing, decades of issues, and making good progress after a year and a half. It's not time to change course. It's time to double down, because there are so many more things that we as a community have to work on. I love this job. And I love this job. You know, I think about putting my daughter, Natalie and I put Molly on the bus in the morning, and she's got her mask on and she waves goodbye and goes to Columbus School. And I want her to grow up in a city where we all can connect with each other and build trust across communities, where everyone has opportunities. And that's just not the case now, and it hasn't been the case for decades. I believe that we can accomplish this, and now is a moment. Now is a moment like none other that we've had before, because we have laid the foundation for financial stability, because we have this additional funding from the federal government, because our community is talking about issues in a much deeper way. We are making so much progress. Let's not change course now.
Thank you, Mayor Elicker. I would now like to ask Adam Marchand to provide us with his closing statement for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Janice. Thank you, neighbors. Thank you, fellow New Haveners. You know, this forum has been a lot of fun, just to hear what people have to say. But my favorite way to campaign is on the doors, talking with people on their front porches, in the heat, in the rain, whatever it may be. And there's really two things I want to talk with people about this summer as the campaign proceeds. One, what's happening in the ward? What do people want to see happen in Westville? How do we build on our strengths? Because we've got strengths. We got walkable sidewalks, we got great houses, we got parks, we got a library that we love, we've got a beautiful business district, we got a thriving artistic community. We have a lot going on, but it isn't perfect. And what do we need to do together to make it better for the residents of Ward 25 in Westville? What's going on in the ward? But what else is happening in the city as well? And one thing I want to talk a lot about is the legislative priorities of the Board of Alders, right? We're talking about jobs for New Haven residents. We're talking about quality, affordable housing, public safety for all, health equity, environmental justice. What the heck do these things mean? Well, that's what we're going to talk about on the doors. And how does the city get the resources it needs in order to make strategic investments to undo the legacy of segregation and redlining in our city? Now, folks have talked about Yale, and it's true. We've been talking about Yale for a long time. My colleagues and I, longer than anybody else. And we want a new relationship, a more equal relationship, and a sustainable budget for our city so we can invest in our residents and make it the city stronger. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam. And Mike Smart, would like you to provide a closing statement, although your clothing outfit is quite lovely today. 2 minutes, please.
Yes. Well, thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Janice and Ward 25 for hosting this forum. And I also want to thank you for being one of the top voting wards in the city. You guys do a great job. You always do a great job. It's a pleasure working with your ward and other wards, you know, getting out to vote. This year, 2020 was a very, very difficult year, but it was an exciting, challenging year. Our clerk's office processed over 16,000 absentee ballots for voters in the city. It's unprecedented. That's something that's never happened before. We extended our hours. We expanded upon just voting in every which way we could, trying to figure out how do we continue to operate in a pandemic and how do we be innovative. And I think our staff did a great job with that. Certainly, during the pandemic, we have been open. Since the pandemic has been going on, we've been in full swing. Folks, if they have questions about their titles, their dog license, legal notices are filed. Notary services were there. We have a black box that's located down in 200 Orange Street to help the voters out. So we're going to continue to, work with the Clerks Association and
30 seconds.
the Secretary of State to make voting as strong as we can. And I would love to have the support of Ward 25 to continue doing the great things so we can help the voters of the city. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mike. And so it's time to say thank you to all of our participants for your thoughtful and responses and the lively exchanges. I know that this will better inform our committee, and also I believe that they will also spend time talking with their friends as well. If ward committee members have further questions for candidates, we encourage you to reach out to each of their campaigns. I think that would be a useful way to get some responses. And it goes without saying a special thanks to Mike Slattery and Tim Holohan, the navigation team, for their technology expertise and for making this a successful event under these unimaginable times in all. So thank you very much. And a reminder to the ward committee members that have joined, the endorsement straw poll meeting will be on Sunday, June 13th. Stay tuned for further details on how that will evolve. Again, thank you again to all the candidates. We wish you all well in your endeavors, and thank you for all your hard work and effort. And with that happy note, we have been able to get this done in a good period of time, and hope that you can enjoy the rest of the evening with your family. Thank you so much, everybody.